Welcome to Camp Peculiar. My name is Aaron, and this is a channel dedicated to sequential storytelling using AI art. That's humans and robots making comics together. Today, we're talking about speech bubbles, speech balloons, dialogue containers, word balloons, whatever you want to come. Hey, can't AI just do these for us? Let's find out real quick. Imagine comic book, speech balloon, vector art, pen and ink, line art. Okay, yeah, you could do these with AI, but they don't look great. And you know what? We want our bubbles to fit our text and our story. We don't want to have to squeeze our text or change our story to fit our bubbles. So let's talk about 3 solid ways to make your speech balloons look super good. Super, I'm not going to say the word pro, but really, really good. I'm going to use Photoshop. Most of these tips will translate to the editing software of your choice. Hey, campers, before we talk about making some rock solid balloons, definitely the descriptor you want to use when talking about balloons there, let's talk about some speech balloon terminology. No, this is going to be interesting. I promise you're going to learn something, and you're going to be like, oh, I didn't never know that. That's pretty cool. All right, so here we go. This is a balloon. This is a bald loon. This is a comic speech balloon. This is the tail of the balloon. That's not a story about a balloon. It's the balloon's tail. And the tail should always point directly at the mouth of the character who is speaking the words inside of the balloon, and that tail should span 50 to 70% of the distance between where the tail leaves the balloon and where the head of the character speaking starts. Let's illustrate this point with an illustration. This character is saying, I don't often watch videos on AI comics, but when I do, Camp Peculiar isn't a channel I really think to check out. Well, thanks for that, but here's the point I'm trying to make. This is where the tail is leaving the balloon, and this is where the character's head starts. The tail should terminate about halfway, and then a little bit more between those 2 points. Hey, would you look at that? It's a comic I made just for this video. It's number 20 from Camp Peculiar. Check out the rest at Camp Peculiar on Instagram. Let's work our way top to bottom as we continue this tremendous and hopefully soon to be trending talk on terminology about speech balloons. This is what's called an overlapping speech balloon. This balloon goes over the top of the panel outlines. You make it just by making the speech balloon however you want and putting it on the layer above your panel. And this one right here is, well, it's just a normal speech balloon. But it's in a mess of a spot. There's all sorts of other white lines and things over here, and it's just kind of confusing. So I think it would be better if we put it right over here where it's a little more clear. Definitely something to think about. Now we just got to adjust the tail, make sure it's still pointing at the mouth, and again, move it about 50% between the end of the balloon and the beginning of the character's head. Woo, this panel over here's got a 2-for-1. That's not the name of the speech balloon inside of it. I'm just saying there's 2 things we got to talk about really quickly in this one panel. The first is that this balloon type is called a joiner, and the type of joiner we got going on here is a balloon-to-balloon joiner, where these 2 speech balloons are sort of overlapping each other and connected. The other type you might have seen is called the connector, and it's where the 2 speech balloons being spoken by the same character are a distance apart, and they are joined by a swooshy or archy or twirly or wavy white line. This balloon-to-balloon joiner's got one other thing going on with it. It's functioning in this panel as a sideliner or a topliner because it's going off the side of the panel. In this case, it's going off both at the top and at the side. Making these is pretty easy. Just make your speech balloon on a separate layer. Put that layer right above your panel layer. Then right-click on your speech balloon layer, choose Create Clipping Mask, and then you can move it around and slide it underneath the panel lines instead of on top of them, as in the previous example. And right down below over here, you'll see, well, nothing special at all other than a speech balloon with too much text in it. It does represent the twist or the midpoint of this particular comic. But next door in panel 5, things really start to heat up because this is where we find the fabled and famed, the hard to accomplish, the breakout budding balloon, or the breakout border balloon, or just the breakout balloon. Instead of going under the panel lines or over the panel lines, the breakout balloon doesn't go over, it doesn't go under, it goes right through the middle, not unlike when you went on a bear hunt in elementary school. Okay, there's lots of ways to accomplish the breakout balloon, and some software handles it better than others, and I think Photoshop handles it pretty awfully. But let's look at 2 ways you can get it done. First, there's the shape way to get it done. The first thing you're going to do is make your comic panel, and you're going to do this using Photoshop's shape tools. Both of these things we're going to make need to be vector shapes. So using a shape tool, draw out your comic, set the outline, whatever you want to do there, and then create a new layer, and again, using whatever shape tool you want to do, an ellipse or a square, or just using the pen tool to draw out your speech bubble. Draw out the way you want your bubble to look. Then you're going to select both layers, your 2 layers that have 2 shape objects on them, and you're going to hit Command or Control E to merge those down into one layer. Or you can right-click on both of them and choose Merge Layers. Then you're going to go up to the combinations drop down at the top of Photoshop there and change your selection to subtract. Subtraction is the key here. That will remove the top or the part of the vector shape that went outside the bottom shape, which is exactly what you want. Method 2, make your comic panel on its own layer, and then on a new layer above that one, make your speech balloon. Then go ahead and select both layers and rasterize both of them independently. Then you merge those two together. You grab your favoriteest eraser in the whole world, and you just get rid of the line that goes through the middle. Then you can just use the magic wand tool, select the white that was in the balloon, get rid of that if you need to. There you go, 2 ways to make a breakout balloon, and that terminates the terminology teaching of this video. Don't go anywhere yet, because we're about to dig into the 3 ways that I make speech balloons for AI comics, starting with number 1, using the standard pen tool. Just grab the pen tool in whatever application you're using and use it to draw out a rectangular or some sort of shape speech balloon. If you want to do a curved or a rounded speech balloon, I recommend moving in a clockwise fashion, starting at the top. You just left click usually and hold down just a little bit and drag in the direction that you're moving. So we're moving clockwise, we'll left click, hold down, and drag out those Bezier handles just a little bit to the right. And then we're going to go to the side of the balloon, so move over to the side, left click, hold down, and then drag down because we're moving down, and drag out those Bezier handles just a little bit so it starts to curve out the balloon. And then you want to go to the bottom, and now we're moving to the left, so you're going to left click, hold down, and move to the left, drag out those Bezier handles, and then up to the right, you drag up, and then click on the beginning point that you made to close off that shape. And I know what you're thinking, oh no, Aaron, there's no tail on this one, you really messed up. How can you make a speech balloon and not do the tail? Well, here's the thing, I think it's actually easier to draw the tail afterwards. All you need to do is just create a new layer, draw out the most wonderful tail shape for a speech balloon you've ever drawn in your entire life, show it to your friends, show it to your family, and then just select both layers, the speech balloon that you drew out initially and the tail part, hit Command or Control E or right click and select merge layers, and everything in your comic world will be right. Method number 2, I call the stroke and draw method. Create a new layer in Photoshop or whatever application you're doing and apply a stroke to the whole layer. In Photoshop, right click, select blending options, turn on the stroke, set it to black, set the transfer to normal, and then whatever you want to do for the size, like 4, 8, 12, 20, however wide you want that stroke to be. I don't care. It's totally up to you. Now you have a layer that when you put something on it, when you draw on it, it will automatically add a black stroke around that for you. So go over to Photoshop and grab your favorite brush, your most special brush in the whole wide world, and set the color to white. Now as you start drawing on that, as you start drawing out the shape of a speech bubble, it will add the stroke for you, and it's really easy to just quickly draw out shapes that way. I don't love this method, but it does work really well for drawing those joiners that we talked about earlier, especially the connection type where you have to draw a long sweeping line connecting 2 speech balloons together. Method number 3, the secret method, the hidden method, the I bet you didn't know you could do this method, the make your speech bubbles not look like every other comic speech bubbles made in Photoshop method. Also the method with the longest title. Hey, did you know that you can apply a brush stroke to a path in Photoshop? It's cool and it's kind of hidden, but it's great for using a brush that has sort of a scratchy or irregular feel to it to give your comic speech bubbles, or even panels for that matter, a scratchy and more natural look to them. So here's what you're going to do. Grab the pen tool off the left there, and then at the top, you're going to need to change the drop down from shape to path. That's crucial. Change it to path, and then draw out your comic outline, your panel, or your speech bubble. Then you're going to make a new layer. Make sure that new blank layer is selected. And then over where you normally find the layers in Photoshop, switch over to the Paths tab. On the Paths tab, you'll see the path that you just drew there. And at the bottom, there's this little circle right there. Make sure you have the brush that you want selected. Again, brushes that are jittery or have kind of like streaky lines in them or irregular or something work well for this. You can adjust the size, start small, and then you just hit that circle and it will apply that brush to that entire path. Hey, there's 1,342,868 other ways to make speech bubbles in Photoshop. Share your favorite way in the comments below or just say hi. If you like this video, found it helpful at all, like and subscribe. Lots of fun stuff coming up, and I will see you next time at Camp Peculiar.